Hey, House community, and welcome back to House Arrest. Thanks for tuning in. This is our last show before the new year, coming just at the tail end of the biggest Jewish community event Toronto has seen so far, JEDxPosed. We had over 500 registered guests, over 45 speakers, 9 sessions, 26 Hanukkah selfies like this one. We got this, some sufganya action, some puppy love, 8 candles, and multiply that by however many it takes to get to 26. We had one epic candle pass orchestrated by our co-chairs Jesse and Sasha, all on the 8th night of Hanukkah. Now, I'm pretty sure if we were to work out the gematria of all of those words in Hebrew, we'd come up with something like pretty hard to believe it all worked. But this was no Hanukkah miracle. It was actually the product of months of tireless devotion, discovery, research, outreach, organizing, preparing from a particularly small but mighty team. This is beginning to sound more and more like the biographies of the Maccabees, up against this great force of epic proportions, the pandemic, social isolation. This small team was determined to save the fate of the Jewish people as they knew it. Our story surely has fewer elephants and spears than the Maccabees likely faced, although there were plenty of metaphorical ones, which we'll talk about tonight. But enough with the cryptic messages. To understand how the house team managed to pull together this incredible feat of an event, I've invited a couple members of our team here tonight for an all-exposed debrief where we'll answer audience questions and determine how we managed to navigate a whole new playing field of online event planning. That being said, I'd like to invite on Ariel Brunitsky. Ariel was the content coordinator of JEDx this year. Hey, Ariel.
Hey, Adina.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Doing well. Good to see you online again. It's been
lovely to be here on House Arrest.
Woohoo. And our second guest tonight is Jessie Levy. Hey, Jessie.
Hello.
Jessie is our outreach and engagement coordinator for the house and really worked hard to get that number of participants where it was, which was pretty incredible. It's honestly great to see you both like this. It feels like old times, meeting on Zoom every day, all day for like the last, 5 months or so.
It's been a long time.
Yeah. I'm feeling some withdrawal, although Jessie is right next door, but like.
Yeah, you two at least get to see each other every day. I'm sitting here being like, friends, I missed you.
What are those? Yeah. So I thought we'd start the night off with a little game. I've asked you all to prepare cards with each of our names. Now, it's important to note that we do not make up the house team entirely. We have Mike, our executive director, Stacy, communications director, Rabbi Rafi, rabbi and founder of the organization, and Liat, who couldn't be here tonight. She was logistics coordinator. But anyway, we're going to play this game with just the three of us. It's a game of superlatives. So I'm going to say something like the person who was most likely to drink the most coffee in the span of one meeting is, and then you hold up a card. Okay, yeah, Jessie knows how to play. All right. So let's do this thing. And if you come up with any of your own throughout this game, make sure to shout them out too. Here we go. Who is most likely to stay up all night working?
For sure.
So self-aware. How many all-nighters did you pull, Ariel?
All-nighters. Okay, so I won't claim I pulled an all-nighter, but the last 2 weeks, so pretty much from like December 1st right up into the event, I'd say 5 out of 7 days of the week, I was up past midnight working. That's just the way it goes.
Good stuff. Anyway, time's all relative these days, so.
I compensated by sleeping in.
Yeah, that totally works. All right, next. Who is most likely to fall asleep during Zoom meetings?
Yikes.
Yeah, Zoom was just not my friend. Honestly, I had so much trouble concentrating for longer than like 30 minutes.
Jesse, I'll give you some credit. I had to pause for a second. I was like, Jesse or Adina? And then I was like, I'm going the side of I know how much Adina hates being on Zoom calls for long times, and I'm gonna chalk it up to that.
I think the only difference is my excessive coffee drinking. That's what's keeping me going. But if it wasn't for that, like I'd be on the ground for sure.
For sure. Who's most likely to have the most detailed to-do lists? Now, I would give this one to Liat, but she's not watching. She's not on tonight, so
Can we still give it to her?
we all had different answers. That's good. We're all detailed.
Thank you for that.
Who I actually never saw your notebook, Ariel, so I don't know how you kept track of everything. Maybe you just have it all organized up here.
I can send you notes if you really want to see one day.
Okay.
She's got the iPad with the pen. She's
Yes.
in.
That's true.
Yeah.
She's way ahead of all of us, miles ahead. Okay.
All about the organization. It's important.
I agree. I spend most of my time actually making to-do lists, and then the rest is easy.
And it feels really good when you cross something off the list.
So true, so true. This one's good. Who's most likely to, while planning JEDx, consider fleeing the country?
For sure.
I looked into some all-inclusives during my breaks now and then.
Oh my god.
All right. Who's most likely to have a weak internet connection? Yeah.
Either that or
I'm
the
so
AirPods will malfunction.
So embarrassed by my tech ineptitude during.
Sorry,
this
Ariel. I
podcast.
think you cut out there.
Yeah, you cut out.
Okay.
Are you serious?
No.
Just kidding.
I wouldn't doubt it. I had do you remember the start of the planning process, and literally every meeting my internet was just failing me, and then I'd show up with my headpods and I was told, I think Jesse told me I sounded like Darth Vader at one point, and I was like,
Yeah.
it's like my business is entirely dependent at this point on me being able to function online. It is not acceptable that my internet is failing me right now.
Steep learning curve. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
You've been good lately though, so it looks like the internet gods are on your side.
Belle may have finally come through and helped us out over here.
Yeah.
Who's most likely to, in times of stress, calm the team down?
I'm not looking at the screen while I shift through.
Aww.
Aw.
Guys. It's all on the outside, don't worry. You know that meme of like, everything is fine. And it's like the coffee cup. That's me.
Yeah.
I
As long as
need
we all
to be
agree, it's
calmed
not
by
me.
people. I need to be calmed by people sometimes too. So, Jesse, you were a good calming presence as well, but I'll give it to Adina at this moment. You're like, no, I wasn't.
All right, last one. Who is most likely to, in times of stress, freak the team out more?
She's
I don't
not
know.
here.
I don't know. Because she's not here. Yeah, that's a good one.
Maybe it's a tie.
Oh, that's.
Oh, man.
Should we talk about why? I'm curious.
Can we talk about why you would freak me out? I think because you were holding a lot on your plate, things that I had sort of decided not to ask about. And sometimes like I would check in being really afraid that like those things just like weren't being taken care of, but actually they were. So I guess it would be the calming the team down. Like I would often be like, wow, Ariel, like you're actually doing that? I thought that was just gonna like fall through the cracks.
But I think that sometimes in calming people down, like it like adds more to like other things that you have to do, and so you're just like overwhelmed, and like it's so funny, we can always tell when like you have something to say because it like physically builds up in you.
That's true. You have the best Zoom face for sure.
Building up like, oh, Ariel has something to say.
People who work with me learn very quickly. My friends can attest. My face is an open book. I don't have a poker face, so I guess take me to the poker game so that you know how to beat me. But yeah, you were always. I also like lost my veil of I reached my point where I got really comfortable and was like, you're gonna know when I have something to say. And it just started building up.
That's what you gotta do. That's what you gotta do. So let's dive into some behind the scenes questions now. If we all think back to August, where I think the planning began for JEDx, at that point, we were considering like a hybrid of online and in person. We had no idea what the regulations would be now, looking 5 months ahead, 4 months. What were our greatest concerns back then? Like what were we even considering back then, if either of you can remember?
Yeah, so back then we were considering having 100 hosts, hosting 10 people in their own homes all around the city, and coming up with, sort of their own content and their own like things to talk about, their own themes based on things that they're passionate about, connecting them to our main theme of the event, which was like exposed. And I think that my concern, well, I had a few concerns, that, obviously people would be left out, like that they weren't invited, and that, people wouldn't be comfortable, which I think like now looking at what it sort of looks like in the world, like that's definitely valid. And I think that we made the right call, but it was a very cool idea. And I really hope that we get to do something like that in the future.
One of my, like, in addition to those concerns, Jesse, I was also concerned that, there's a lot of, there's high expectations on the content for JEDx. So we're like, what is the experience going to be? And it was definitely a challenge I was open to, but a little bit concerning. How are we going to maintain high quality content across 100 households that we're all going to have like their own customization aspect to the content? So.
And I remember those days, like we had checklists and Word documents and whatnot, but it all just seems so
long ago.
Yeah, like so
Oh
totally unnecessary and irrelevant, because we couldn't have even had 10 people in our homes. Like, just considering our reality now, like it's not possible. Cases are out of control and it's actually illegal.
I remember we were calling it Plan A, and then Plan B was that Plan B would be we would switch to an entirely virtual event, and we were sort of planning it as the backup plan. And I remember the day that I kind of came to a meeting and said, I think we need to switch Plan B to Plan A. And it's a very big relief when we just decided to go that way.
I feel like we barely even like knew what Plan B was at the point. Like, I think I think it was the same meeting where I was like, look, we got 550 people or however out in a snowstorm to Humans. Like, why don't we use some of what we learned from that into this event, right? Like, people will show up for good content, even though it's online. So I remember that meeting. That was an intense meeting.
That fateful day.
I think it was the wake up call that we all needed. And I'm glad that I
don't remember what day it was, but
everything changed. So let's take a look at our agenda for last Thursday night. Okay. Ariel, I'm going to turn to you because, as you said, you were sort of leading content. So if we can look at this agenda, we see a welcome with keynote, opening remarks, Hanukkah lighting ceremony. Then we had experiences where you could choose between 9 sessions, followed by like 5 or 6 different options for the after party. What was your vision for JEDx once I guess we knew slightly what it would look like, and why did we need so many options for people to choose from?
Got it. Well, I'm gonna just offer that I don't think this was ever just solely my vision, so I can't even offer this was my vision. It was all of our collective vision that came together. So just in case anyone was wondering, this truly was a collaborative effort of all members of this team. So the vision was having multiple options, hitting on multiple different topic points to speak to every single person who might attend the event and give them the personalized and meaningful experience that they would want to have. Our goal was to come up with the right variety of options, but to also do it in a manageable format and not overwhelm people with choice. So at one point we were talking about having 2 content sessions, and I remember we had a list of like almost 40 different topics that we were going to try to plan at one time. And when we cut down to 1, then I also definitely turned around and said, then we're not having more than 10 content sessions. And in the end we ended up with 9, which was perfect because it was aligned with the 9 candles on our Chanukia that night. I liked that connection.
And speaking of candles, I just want to share with our viewers that candle pass that I was talking to earlier. So part of our keynote involved an address of our co-chairs, Sasha and Jesse, and they obviously weren't together at the time, but they orchestrated this incredible moment of unity, which I'll share right now. Please hold. Check that out.
Goosebumps. Goosebumps.
Incredible.
I think that was an accident. Isn't that what they didn't plan that? Or they didn't plan
no,
it
they
like
did.
that.
It required some rehearsal. They
Okay,
did.
so they did. I thought they got that super epic by fluke.
It
No,
was
they're-
super epic by fluke. That was by right. We didn't know that the 2 video screens would be next to each other for that very important moment.
So good.
Yes, there was some fluke involved. There was absolutely some fluke, but we definitely the goal of the night was we're going to try to do this candle pass and make it look like it's the same shamash, and really it was just a moment of truth in the moment. Did it work? Did the camera angles that our producers were using actually show it properly? And it paid off, and there was a great roar of like success.
I just remember the Hoover chat going wild when that happened. Like, oh my god, that was so epic.
So speaking of Huba, a big part of our events are always the networking opportunity, people to meet each other and get to know others with similar interests. And obviously this whole online event industry had to deal with overcoming that obstacle. People simply can't get together now. So a big challenge we had to overcome was how to find the opportunity to create interaction and build community all online. And Jesse, you were in charge of getting us to our goal number, people, and engagement, just getting people excited and interested in the event. Now, usually in person, we see about 1,000 people come to JEDx in real life. What were your expectations for attendance at this online event? And how did you go about making them a reality? And I think even surpassing them?
I definitely didn't. I don't want to say that I didn't think we could do it, but I thought that it was very much a long shot to get 500 people plus to an online event. And I think that even now, when I'm talking to people and seeing what their thoughts were and saying yeah, there are over 500 people there, everyone's like, oh my God, that's crazy. And it's not like you can really see it, right? So my expectation, it definitely exceeded my expectations, but I think how we got there was just really believing in the program and believing in the content and believing in, our power to really push our vision forward and, not trying to sell people on it, but just being this is amazing. This is what we're doing. This is probably going to be the coolest online event that you'll go to in a while, which I think a lot of people agree with. And I think just genuinely believing what we were selling, and really knowing that it's amazing and allowing people to feel our passion, definitely helped fill the Hoover spaces and help people get excited about it.
Absolutely, I agree. I think a crazy part of the event that we've spoken about is that so much went into it, right? We were pouring everything we had into the creation of this event. And then we didn't even really get to experience it ourselves. It wasn't that we were running around from the hallway to the lobby and, talking to people and make sure everyone was where they were needed to be. We were all on our couches or by our computers, sort of in the background, virtually running around, but it didn't have that feeling of like being, that feeling of satisfaction of, I guess, seeing your work before you, seeing 500 people getting together and just being moved by this experience. But despite that, what were highlights for each of you the night of JEDx?
Highlights. I think like you said, like we really didn't get to see any of the event. I mean, I think a few of us did, but I certainly didn't see anything until after the fact. But I think just the immediate feedback I was getting, like while the event was happening, the amount of engagement on Whova was incredible. Like throughout the entire day, it like blew my mind, and people were so excited to talk to each other. That was definitely a highlight. Yeah, I can't wait to watch it all back and see what it looked like. But yeah.
Ariel, what about you?
So you made me, I'm going to connect this. Jesse, you reminded me of another superlative we could probably throw out there, which was who was most likely to overestimate attendance possibilities for this event. And I dropped my card, but I'd hold up my name.
Where's my mic card?
No, Mike, well, Mike was realistic. I was the one who kept sitting there being like, we can bring out 1,000 people. It can happen. We just have to keep trying. So one of my highlights was definitely when everything got going and I was able to see not only how many people were actually watching the sessions, which was like, oh, good, there are people here. They're actually doing this. I can't see them, but they're doing this. But then being in the meet and greets and in the after party room afterwards, where it was like, okay, now we've built this entire platform experience that is going to be dependent on people showing up. And do we even know if they're going to come? And then 50 people suddenly showed up in the waiting room for the meet and greets. And I understand that 50 people also showed up in the waiting room for the after parties. And that's at least 100 people operating. And then I know that people finished the meet and greet and went to the after parties, and being able to see that when I did get into the after party and would bounce around the rooms, and my friends who knew me were there were like able to sort of like start offering feedback. It was really nice to see that and hear that. So
yeah, you got a whole Ariel appreciation thread going.
That's true.
You brought that up. Things that can happen on the internet.
Yeah, you mentioned the after party, and like I was in the main room the whole time, sort of moving people around, and one of my favorite parts about being in that after party was like seeing people's like smiling face, like, wow, that was amazing, I want to try another room. And I'm like, okay, which one do you want to be in? Like people were so like excited to go try out all the rooms, and that's something that was another highlight, just like the smiling, excited faces.
The number of times that somebody has reached out or said somewhere even in the Whova chats, when people were talking about, I want to watch another session, will I be able to watch another session? By the way, you can all watch another session. It's still up on your Whova app.
Yes.
But that was really rewarding too. The fact that not just people came in and it wasn't that there was just one session they wanted to go to. There were multiple sessions they wanted to go to. And even after choosing one and going through the whole 45-minute, hour-long session, they still wanted to go to another one. So that was really quite the highlight.
Agreed. So we're going to end with just one last little game. It's just a simple thought question. If we had to do this all over again, plan this virtual event, but this time on a deserted island, what 3 items would you take with you to ensure that this event would be a success?
My laptop, my phone, and one of those King David pizzas.
So that was good and fast.
Yeah, she was ready.
I was ready.
Three items to ensure this event. Okay, well, it's gonna sound like really sentimental and dorky, but the first thing that came to mind was actually Adina, Liat, Jesse.
Oh, that's so
And then we will all have our 3 items, and then there you go. We got a party.
cute.
And then
That
I
was
would have
so
been like,
sweet.
but I need a fourth. But I need a fourth because what we have to do is give a little bit more credit to Mike
Absolutely.
because
Yeah.
his network and his reach and ability to like curate content and get people in a space and get them on board to just like be there is so impressive. And I, you know, like I wouldn't want to choose between the 3 of you, but I also wouldn't know how to do this event without his support behind it
Also,
too.
massive
So
shout out to Stacy for her incredible
yes,
communications work, all the
absolutely.
graphics, all the everything that all the entire user experience was based on her creations, her artwork, which was just incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, it got to
absolutely.
a point the day of where Stacy was pumping out graphics like
Yeah.
that,
She said,
like so quickly, and it was so impressive. And she's, you know, she's got her kids at home, and it's a lot of, you know, a lot of work, and they all looked amazing, and everything was incredible.
Check
And
this
back
out.
to Mike,
Stacey
I
said that
yeah,
she generated around 940 some odd images for this event. And she was still doing it right up until the last minute. So Adina, the question about 3 was not fair. I need 5. Like
Cool.
well,
Noted.
Dean and I are one person technically.
fair. Just enough.
So, just lastly, in one word, what was the key to success of JEDx?
Passion. Passion.
People.
I think that us being passionate about what we were doing really really pushed us forward to something that seemed like seemed impossible to pull, especially successfully. And I think that it was the passion that drove us forward through all the stress and all the uncertainty and all the like, we have no idea who's coming to this, and you know, we just, you know, pushing through because it was something that we all really cared about.
I very much like Jesse's word, but I'm not going to steal it because that would be boring house arrest content. So I'll offer that
all about the content.
People is my word because
People.
likewise, people made this happen. Both the people who made it happen and the people who showed up. And if any of those people weren't there, this couldn't have happened successfully. So.
Absolutely.
Agreed. Well, thank you so much for taking time with me tonight to debrief and expose all the behind the scenes secrets of JEDx this year. Thanks to those who came. Thanks to our viewers. And like always, we want to hear from you. So here's to a new year filled with vaccines and eventually in-person gatherings. Happy early 2021, and we'll see you in the new year.